Good afternoon. Welcome to Artists of Color. I am Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host. Glad you're with us this afternoon. This afternoon, we actually have a great show. Not to say that all my shows are not great, but we have a great show. There is a program that's getting ready to start up in the Fort Hill area of Roxbury, and it's called Jazz on the Hill. So today with me, I have 4 musicians who are also the founders of this program, and I'm actually very happy they are with us. I'm actually going to start to my left with Miss Verna Hampton. Verna, thank you for being with me today.
Well, thank you for having us. I appreciate you having us, and we're getting a chance to let people know what we're on the Hill.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I have musician Mr. Cyril Chapman.
Yes, hi. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. I always see you everywhere.
Yes, yes.
So today I have you on my show.
Yes,
and I'm very
wonderful
happy
to
to have, I'm glad you're here, I really am. And to my right, I have Mr. Willie Brown III. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Willie Brown.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm very well.
I'm glad you're here with me today.
Thank you.
Our first time meeting.
Yes.
And I'm very glad you've come and to visit us today.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I have Mr. Brandon Guillermo.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, I'm glad I got that right. Thank you for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having us on.
I am very glad. I'm really glad. I found out, actually, I heard about this from Miss Verna here, who told me about this program and this project, and I was really interested. I want to promote it, and since I have a live show, we might as well have you all come on and talk about it. I actually want to start, I'm going to start from my right again.
All right.
Mr. Guillermo, do me a favor, tell me how the project got started.
Well, I was brought in to help with some of the promotional aspects of it. I joined late, so I understand that this has been in planning since January. And I'm good friends with Verna and some of the other founders, Willie, and so I know all these folks for years. And so I was brought in to help with some of the aspects, and I'm also a percussionist.
You are?
Yes.
Okay, will you be playing?
Definitely.
Oh, very
I'm wearing this hat in honor.
Yeah, I noticed that.
In honor of a musician friend that passed away recently, Lenny Stallworth, a very exceptional bass player.
Absolutely.
And he designed, this is a drum cymbal. It's a cymbal for a drum effect.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
That's great.
I remember him. Verna.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you this question. What is the mission of Jazz on the Hill?
You should actually ask that to Willie, since he has the explanation in front of him.
Well, I figured, Okay, Willie, we're going to give this to you.
Okay. Let me first say that I am not a musician.
Okay.
I am an advocate for, I am a supporter of, a lover of jazz.
Shake my hand, sir.
Wonderful,
because so am I.
Through the years, some of my very good friends have been and are jazz musicians. Mm-hmm. I came to Boston in the late 1960s and met folk like Hayes Burnett, Stan Strickland, hanging out with guys like Sid Smart. Yes. But I fell in love with jazz when I was in. But to get to your question about the mission.
Yes.
Our mission is to support jazz performances, to support the preservation and the legacy of an original American art form. This is a gift that has been given not just to our people but to the world. And we want to see this art continue, and we want folk to know that it comes from us. So that's our mission.
I like that mission. Cyril, I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure.
And I'm going to begin by asking this question. Okay. How long have you been a jazz musician?
I would say not long enough, because it's a lifelong study and it's lifelong work. And I actually got started late. I was in college, when I started.
And so I've felt like I've been trying to catch up. But, you know, it is what it is. You know, you just keep adding on and trying throughout your whole life. And a friend of mine went to see John Coltrane in 1966, I think at the Jazz Workshop late in the fall. I think it was his next to the last time coming. And she said, "Wow, Mr. Coltrane, you sure can play that saxophone." He said, "Well, thank you, young lady. I'm starting to get the hang of it."
See?
And some people would see that as false modesty, but no, he was working very hard and
Really?
continuing to grow and progress, and that's the lot of jazz musicians. is to-
I'm a longtime fan of John Coltrane. Love that man dearly. Absolutely. How did you pick Jazz on the Hill?
I got a call from another one of the participants, Richard Habib Evans, and he's a good friend of Hybe Savad, and so he told me what was happening, and so I got, connected. I talked to Hybe, and then Hybe said, do you want to, perform? And I said yeah. So my name got added to the list of performers.
Fabulous. Verna,
Yes, ma'am.
why Jazz on the Hill?
Why Jazz on the Hill?
Why Jazz on the Hill?
Well, both of us actually met at some point in our lives on Fort Hill. JB, Hybe, and I go back to 1977, 76, when I was at University of Massachusetts, and I lived on Highland Street, and that was just before I moved to New York. And I came back, and Hybe, JB, he was telling me about Willie Brown III and the Edward L. Cooper Community Center Garden. And he brought up Jazz on the Hill. He said he's been around since January, but we've been talking about it for 2 years because I've been here just working on, I came here to just work on music.
Right.
And my music partner and I, we were working, and that's how I met him day after Thanksgiving 2 years ago. I came to Willie's house, even though I knew him way long time ago. I came to Willie's house, and he and Verdia, we sat down, and I brought what I thought we could do and some of my ideas. And it took up until now for everything to come to fruition. But, there's no music or wine before it's time.
That's true.
And this is an exciting, and the longevity of it is very important.
Yes. Is this going to, I'm going to ask all of you, and you give me your opinions. From the time this starts on the 26th of August, will this be something that's going to progress? Is it going to continue? Is it going to be hopefully a lifelong legacy?
I will let our director of the center, I'll let him answer that.
Well, I'm a former
You're a
director, former chairperson of the board of the Ed Cooper
Center.
Community Garden and Education Center. But let me say that we recognize that we stand on the shoulders of folk who have been in this city promoting jazz for years, decades before us. The Boston Jazz Society, as an example, they existed for 2 or 3 decades. They're no longer active, but they were the ones who were supporting the preservation of jazz and educational programs for the youth. We're standing on the shoulders of many folk whose names, there's a long list of names of folk who should be honored for their efforts to continue to promote jazz in this city. But our long-range goal, Elaine, is to build and preserve a venue for jazz performance and jazz educational programs. We want to own a building that will be dedicated to the people who have spent decades in this city. As Cyril said, Cyril has been in business for decades. Frank Wilkins, decades. Curtis Rivers, decades. Many others. I want us to honor the work that's been done through the decades by many whose names that I can't even call now. So this is what we see as our vision, to create a place of our own so that we can honor these artists.
Well, we're gonna take a short break, and when we come back, we want to talk more about that.
All right.
See on page 4 that the projections need to be blood. Next Thursday?
See, Thursday. Can't do that.
This is really inconvenient.
I have yoga that day.
I have no time for this.
So,
I can't do Thursday, but I can do Friday.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency. Don't wait. Communicate.
Cost of family time activities getting you down?
Hello, I'm Dr. Spruce. You or someone you know needs a healthy dose of nature? Visit discovertheforest.org to find out which park or forest is closest to your family.
Acorns are not real currency, but that's okay because parks or forests are either free or super affordable. It's a truly economical way for family to enjoy each other's company and bond beyond the confines of concrete buildings and rush hour.
Your son wants to get a cat, but you're allergic. Do you A, pair yourself, B, make the best of it,
C squared equals
25.
Good job.
or C, find a loophole? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome back to Artists of Color. I'm Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host. And as you can see, we have been having a discussion on jazz, preferably Jazz on the Hill, which is about to launch on the 26th of this month. And, you know, really want you guys to come out and support. So what we're going to do, I'm going to introduce my guests so everybody out there can know who we're talking to. This is Miss Verna Hampton.
Hello, everybody.
This is Miss Earl Chapman.
Hi.
And this is Mr. Willie Brown III.
Hello there.
And this is Mr. Brandon Guillermo.
Hi.
And we've been having this discussion about jazz and its legacy and hatred. And I want you to continue.
Okay.
Because I was very excited about what you had to say.
Well,
I want to ask you a question.
Oh, yeah.
This will get you
That'll
going.
be helpful.
You talked about the legacy. You talked about the Jazz Society, which I'm assuming is no longer in existence.
right.
Can you tell me if doing this can begin to bring that back into existence?
As far as a legal entity,
Okay.
they'll no longer have legal status
Oh,
as a nonprofit organization, and I've spoken to one who told me that the organization is not as active as it has been. A lot of the leaders of that organization are elders now, and are not active. So it's time for us to step up.
And that was going to be my question.
Time for us to step up.
Are we as the younger, and I shouldn't say that, we as the younger part of of any organization that has to do with music and jazz and our legacy, can we come in and take that over and begin to bring that back?
I'd like to offer a contribution in that regard. That
Yes.
I think that, especially with events as they currently stand, jazz to me has always been an expression of freedom and discipline, and neither one compromises the other. You can't have without some measure of discipline, but you can't have discipline with some freedom, because that's where the creativity lives. That's where how rules get formed. Okay, so I think that we feel an obligation to carry that on, to try to express that type of message, especially when you are confronting those that want to, put it politely, suppress it.
Okay. And I understand that.
Or co-opt it.
Yes, I'd like to just kind of go on to
Yes.
that and continue that train of thought, especially around education
Exactly.
and the youth and how important music is in our society, but also in our education and in the curriculum of the educational institutions here in Boston and all over the country and all over the world. And they find that when youth, adults, anyone has music in their life, it actually them to feel better, to express themselves, and using music as an educational and counseling tool is fun. It doesn't feel like you're being pressured to do so. And you can find, all of us can attest to this, that when we work with little bitty children, it doesn't matter how old they are, and you bring a drum or you bring something, it becomes wonder. It becomes, they create their own music and a dance and whatever goes with it.
Yes.
Because music is, in fact, our heartbeat is the first music we ever hear.
That's true.
And I think we need to, not think, I believe that we need to assert and insert music in the curriculum of
Of the
all
educational
the educational systems.
starting from when they're little ones.
Starting from when they are in preschool, along with another language.
Can I piggyback on that a little bit?
Yes.
Because it's also the responsibility of people in the community to inform and expose their children to music. So it's not just the schools, you know.
We as a community.
And now with the, you know, with basically this whole STEM emphasis, I used to teach in Boston Public Schools. With the STEM emphasis, it's fine, but it's not fine if that's the only thing that you're doing. You know, and now all the arts and creative things have been seen as being extras and frills and things that we can just cut out and save money on, and why the dropout rate is high.
Yeah.
You have to have something in the school and in the system
want
that
to
is
bring the youth together.
Yeah.
Bring them to say, well, I hear this, or I seen that. I want to know what that is.
I heard this.
I want to hear, exactly. I heard this. I want to know what I heard.
Yes.
You know, it's touched me. It's touched me in
Yes.
such a way that, you know, I want more of it.
Yes.
Because to me, when you start to hear music, you want more. Now, I'm not going to bring me into this, but I've been part of music since I was 3 years old.
That's right.
And that's a program that's a conversation we will continue. We got to do a short break, and we will be back.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon or good morning, whichever time you may be witnessing and watching this wonderful interview we are about to do with Frank Wilkins, one of the music directors for Jazz on the Hill at the Edward L. Cooper Community Center Garden on Lynn Street in Roxbury, Massachusetts. I'm Verna Hampton for the Artists of Color show that is produced and hosted by D. Elaine Hall-Corbin.
Hey, Elaine.
Hey, and this handsome young man here is Frank Wilkins. And we are at the Elephant Walk restaurant in the South End, and just finished a wonderful couple of sets of his vocal showcase party. It was wonderful. How are you this evening, Frank?
I'm doing fantastic.
You look great. This was a full evening, and I just want to get right down to our questions.
Let's go.
Yes. Okay. First thing is, how did this process begin?
if you mean with the Jazz on the Hill.
Yes, Jazz on the Hill.
JB approached me and say his name again, totally.
His name is Hybe Savadell.
Hybe Savadell.
Yes, he's a black Cuban.
And he's a wonderful brother. Supports music, which I appreciate. Anyone who is supportive of music, and so we've talked. And he had this great idea about music on the hill, which brings together community, which is, everyone knows that I play, well, if you don't know, I play Slaves Bar and Grill every Tuesday night for the last 20 years. Before that, last 30 years prior, or maybe a little less, I was doing it elsewhere, but I wanted to bring it to the community. And so I did, and I've been at Slaves for 20 years, and it's created this wonderful community gathering of all ages, and we're continuing that. And so it sounds like, particularly with this historic site that he's speaking on in location on the hill, to bring music, I had to be down with it.
Yes, and we are so happy and honored that you are going to be of this important event that's about to happen. I just wanted to ask you, what is the mission of Jazz on the Hill?
Well, Jazz on the Hill is that, to bring community together, to create a venue, to also allow musicians to be able to play more original music.
Yes.
Which is very key. I know that I'm offering a couple of songs. One is called All of Us Now. My wife wrote those lyrics. All we have is now, life's a gift from God, seize each moment every day. You have to come to hear the rest. The next one is a day after Carmen McRae passed. Mm-hmm. That's called Much Love to You, Carmen. And Cyril Chapman wrote the lyrics to that. That's a fabulous song. Cyril may end up singing the lyrics to that at this engagement, because I don't have enough time to teach it to my wife. But
that'll be a wonderful treat.
So he's not only a great alto sax player, but he's an unbelievable lyricist.
Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
I really am. And I think I may have one more question to ask you before we cut back to
steak dinner.
Till we cut back to the live part of this interview today, because you will not be here today for the live interview, but you're gracious enough to give us this interview this evening, and I appreciate that.
I apologize, because I would like to be here live, but the blessing is that when you give, you receive.
Yes,
right
sir.
Now I'm receiving. They're working me, baby.
We're not mad about that. I have one thing to ask before we roll it back to Elaine and the rest of the guests. Do you see this being a long-standing event?
Absolutely do. I'm hoping that as folks come to even this first event, that you will understand the importance of the mission statement, and when you get there, you'll actually hear it more defined than I was able to at a particular moment, and be able to contribute. We're looking for a location. It's something that we want to do on a regular basis. There are so many talented people around here. It don't matter about the color and all that kind of stuff. It's just really growing. It's about growing.
Yes.
It's about growing. When you eat a tomato, you don't know where that seed came from. But when you slice it up in a salad, it's good, right?
Sure is.
And so it's the same thing with, it's and with the way evolution is happening right now, our mixtures are as they are. It turns out to be the great. I'm a cook too. You can tell that's what I do when I'm not doing music.
You're referencing
I like
food, yes.
I like to combine spices and various things in order to make that particular gumbo. And so if you need it to be cultural, then it depends on what spice you put in.
Well, there you go.
You know what I mean?
And I like that. It depends on which spice we put in it.
Boom.
Thank you, Frank. That was a wonderful.
It's Duke Ellen. Love you madly.
Oh, I love that. We love you madly, too. And this is Verna Hampton signing off for the Artist of Color on BNN. The Art of Color on BNN. Thank you and good evening.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Artists of Color. I'm Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host, and we're going to continue the discussion regarding a project that is about to launch called Jazz on the Hill. And my guests are Mr. Cyril Chapman, Mr. Mr. Willie Brown III, and Mr. Brandon Guillaume. I have to get used to all these names. Guillermo.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being with me. Yes, we had a fourth guest, but she had to skip out on us, but that's okay. This is Verna Hampton, and she's the one that got me started in this project, letting me know about Jazz on the Hill and that it was coming to fruition. And we decided that we have all these people on my show today, all these artists of mediums, and have them out here to tell us about Jazz on the Hill and what it's about, what its mission is, what its vision is. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to begin with the vision. What is the vision of Jazz?
Well, the vision, which implies a long-range view
Exactly.
of where we're going, our vision is to continue to preserve. Our effort is about preserving jazz, creating an environment where jazz in Roxbury can continue to move forward, allowing for that creativity to take place. One thing we know, one thing I know about jazz, it's not static.
No, it's not.
It's forever evolving.
Yes.
But we have noticed a shrinking of
venues.
Again, we want our long-range vision is build a place that will be a home for jazz in this city, in this region.
Yes.
It's a home in Roxbury.
Yeah.
So that this art form can continue to grow. And as was said earlier, we want to make sure that the young people are exposed, they have access to programs that can educate them about jazz. So hopefully we continue to feed into that stream of people who embrace love and who become performing artists.
We've been talking about vision. Yes,
yes,
Cyril.
I just as a matter of perspective, I am a native Bostonian. My parents were both born here, Roxbury, and one of the things that used to be the way things used to be is like we had a piano in our house.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a fancy piano, but a lot of people had pianos in their
homes.
You see, because going back, music was something that you did. It wasn't something that you bought. And music was part of the community. You know, if you wanted music, you had to play it, or you had to hire somebody
to
or
play
invite
it.
somebody to play it. Okay, and so with the commercialization of it, you know, first of all, the recording helped at first because more people could hear it, and so the demand went up. Okay, but then when business interests found a way to monetize it, then it started to shift, and then it started moving out of the community, and so that I mean, even when I was in high school, there were I could walk down the street, there were musicians practicing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you hear that very
no,
much.
you don't,
The
not
only
anymore.
time you hear that is in the college areas, like over around Berkeley. Conservatory,
Yes.
because those are the people that have found a way to monetize the educational process and to actually make money and become very prosperous on basically our music.
That's
and
true.
we have been sort of left, in the backwash of that. And as a result, a lot of my former students, when I was teaching, they actually thought that jazz was Caucasian music.
Okay.
And I just say no. But that's how they saw it, And people all over the world come to study it, and people all over the world embrace it. But in our community, it's kind of gone, by the wayside.
Yes, it has.
So this is by having it in the community, by having artists that are homegrown. There are a lot of famous, great musicians that came out of Boston.
Yes.
And now there are a lot of great and famous musicians that come through
Boston. Thank you. We're going to have a very short break, and we will be right back with my guest.
Your son wants to get a cat, but you're allergic. Do you A, prepare yourself, B, make the best of it,
C squared equals
25.
Good job.
or C, find a loophole? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
It takes a village to help somebody get their diploma. Changes your whole life.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
Welcome back to Artists of Color. I'm Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host, and thank you for coming back to visit us again. And of course, my guests are Verna Hampton.
Hi.
Cyril Chapman, Lee Brown III, and Mr. Brandon Guillermo.
Hi.
Hey, I must say, I did that right this time.
Yeah, you did
Thank you.
well.
And we've been having a very long conversation about a project, a program that's getting ready to launch on the 26th of this month called Jazz on the Hill. And we've been talking about education and music and not having it in our community like it should be, and about having venues for jazz, about teaching our youth about jazz and music as a whole, and how you were talking about having, a piano in your home as a child growing up. Most African American folks had pianos, even if it was a little one, had a piano in their home. My father-in-law was a pianist. He taught piano to many, many. He also was one of the first African American students at the New England Conservatory of Music.
Wow.
Now he goes way back. And I remember watching him teach my mother-in-law to play when I was a little girl. He taught all of his children to play piano. He was a pianist, he taught, and he did musical performances. So yeah, music was part of that.
Yes.
And I remember as a child growing up, meeting different jazz musicians, because my mother, she got around as far as going to different clubs. She went to places like Wally's. She went to places Slade's. She went to places like the Businessmen's Club, where all those places had music. There were musical venues, and musicians were always there and around. So I got to meet quite a number of those, and performers. And now we don't have that as much. Like somebody was asking me the other day, and I'm not sure, I guess Wally's has moved across the street from where it used to be?
Yes.
Yes, Wally's.
What's happened?
Wally's has now been across the street for maybe 50 years, almost 50 years.
No.
I remember when they moved across the street
they
to
haven't
the Brownstown.
So they have not moved from the Brownstone.
the brownstone is where they moved to. Across the street, there's a long stretch of, now there's smaller stores.
Yes.
That was all Wally's.
Okay.
The entire length
Was all Wally's?
was all Wally's.
Did not realize
Yes,
that.
on the first floor, it was a premier venue
Okay.
where our premier and upcoming artists, musicians, singers, actors, all came there and performed. And that was a huge venue.
Yes.
And everybody came. And then across the street, there was the Wigwam. And then there was another one. There used to be on all those four corners. The reason I know is because my mother, like yours, she frequented, not hung out, but she went to these venues when Nat King Cole came,
Yes.
when Fats Domino came, when all of their, I keep using that word because they are premier, top-notch performers and musicians came there. And I wanted to just say something about musicians being in the community, because prior to even our age, remember that our musicians came into the community because
Yes,
they
they
couldn't go
did.
anywhere else.
Yep.
They ate where we ate. They kind of roomed sometimes in the communities because we weren't allowed to come into the segregated hotels here in Boston too.
Very
Yes,
true.
Segregation
Very true.
exists. Ted and still does, but that's another show. But yes, so we were familiar with, I'll give you a very good example. Chris White, who played for Nina Simone, was a friend of one of my neighbors where I lived, and they used to come over all the time. And I met several musicians, and when I was an adult, I ran into an actor who was also a friend with these musicians who knew me when I was a little girl, Ellington Street here in
There you go.
Boston, because they said, "Oh yeah, I remember we used to come and your grandmother cooked." I said,
See?
"Really? I don't." But this is what happened. I remember Marvin Gaye at the Franklin Park. I'm really aging myself now.
Theater.
At the Franklin Park Theater, and it was the whole.
That's it. I remember.
It was
Review,
the
Motown
whole
Review.
Motown Review, and I remember we were like this talking. They were out talking with the older, and I said, I don't know how food came up, but I said, "Oh, my mother made some greens." He said, "She did? Go home and tell your mother Marvin Gaye wants some." I went home and I said, "Mommy, Marvin Gaye said to send him some greens." My mother said, "You better tell Marvin Gaye he better make his own greens," because I think he wasn't a big home name. I mean, everyone was on that bill, right, Cyril? The Supremes, the Four Tops, the Temptations, Marvin Gaye. It was the Review.
Yeah.
Everybody was together, and they were wearing little cheap dresses, and we paid like $0.25 to go see them, or $1, something like
somewhere,
that.
yes.
But that's when artists intermingle in our community.
That's true.
And there were some clubs on Boylston Street. Like I remember the Jazz Workshop.
Yeah.
Workshop. I was gonna say that.
Small.
Yeah.
I had some
Sugar
great
Shack.
experiences there.
Yes.
Those were the downtown clubs.
Yep.
But
Those were.
Leave out Conley's and Estelle's.
Oh, no.
Oh, please. We can't.
We can't.
Because,
can't.
you know, Ruslan Roland Kirk.
Yes.
You know, hometown man, Roy Haynes, Yusef
Yes.
Lateef, brother Yusef Lateef, brother Jack McDuff.
Yes.
You know, at Estelle's, George Benson, other people
Yes,
were.
Estelle's.
Yes.
I saw many people at Estelle's. Jimmy Smith on his organ, where he rocked. I thought he was going to fall off because remember Estelle's had that stage in
little
the middle.
yup.
I thought he was going to fall off because when Jimmy Smith got to going, he wasn't playing. He was on that thing. It was we can talk about that and we can reminisce about being that close to those wonderful who were
talented,
giving us something we didn't even
amazing
realize
people.
it then. And our children are losing that because the tickets are $500,
Oh, you're
and the
not
venues
kidding.
are either very big or very small, or out, so they don't get a chance to go around the corner and see all these great who are now greats. And on that, I must say that the Queen of Soul has transitioned to that big bandstand, Sky, and that's someone, the Queen Aretha
We
Franklin?
are going to miss the Queen. The Queen of Soul.
And
Miss
she got her
Aretha
start doing
Franklin.
Jazz.
After
Yes,
the gospel.
after she
doing
went
some
into
gospel
jazz.
and then she went to the R&B.
One heck of a piano,
Pianist.
a
You
pianist
not-
and
who you kidding?
jazz player, yeah.
I went to see an artist last night
Who did you go see?
who paid tribute to Sister Aretha Franklin.
And it was?
Miss Anita Baker,
Yes.
who tore down the house
I
last
know
night.
she did.
And at the end, she paid a beautiful tribute to the Queen of Soul. I didn't know if I was going to or what, but it was amazing. It was amazing.
I wish I could have been there, but I was working. So I guess that's okay.
That was work for me last night.
Oh, it was
That was my work. And
Yeah.
that's another question, and that's another show. But we've talked about all of this, and now we're going to come back to the meat of the show, because the meat of the show is
Jazz on the Hill.
Having to listen to all of you folks who are in that business, you know, who know where jazz has gone to and where it needs to come to. We're doing Jazz on the Hill on the 26th.
Yes, ma'am.
What have we, notice I said we, have we decided on where we want to put our building when we begin to work on that stage in the process?
We're at that stage right now. Everything we do is geared toward that goal, to get the land and the building. And I must say that I call him our resident realtor, he is the person who came up with the idea, let's get some land and build on
thank
it.
you.
Make it our own and
From
a
the bottom
legacy
up.
to all of the youth, the elders, everyone
Everybody.
involved, because music is important. And I just want to, I love this little saying, without art, the earth is just air.
Okay.
Write it out.
Now that's one I've never heard before.
Write it out.
Okay, I can see that.
E-A-R-T-A. Without art, the earth is just air.
Okay. The A and the R and the T. Yeah, I guess that works, doesn't it?
See? Yeah.
I guess
Figure it
that
out,
works.
folks at home.
I guess that's so. The mission and the vision is quite interesting. I like both. I'm excited about both, and I want to know what everybody's going to be doing that night. I know you'll be there, and you'll be there, and Miss Verna will be there. Are you going to be playing, Sarah?
I'll be playing, yes.
Yes.
Are you going to be singing?
Well,
No, I gotta.
Julie, excuse me, ma'am?
I said, I know I got you.
Actually, I will be the MC.
Oh, okay.
And at some point, I may open
might
my
do a
mouth
little
and
bit of
a
something.
note or two may come out. But I'm just there to be able to help to move the process forward and to get all these wonderful, exciting, talented people on the stage to share their talents and their teeth with the people who come to see them. And I want people to be there. You won't be square if you're not there, but be there. You'll enjoy yourself. We also have a wonderful caterer, Rhonda Sip, which she has her catering. It's called
Seasons with Soul.
Seasoned with Soul.
Oh, I've never heard of her.
Yes, and you have. You just don't know the
Maybe
name.
I don't know the name.
You don't know the name. This works a lot. Her cousin is her first cousin, Charlie Persip.
Okay, that name is familiar.
And she does wonderful catering here in Boston and anywhere that they'll hire her. She's great, and she's working with us, donating her time and her expertise to be able to make it nice, and her energy.
And her food.
And, and the food.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely the food.
Yeah, I'm for food always. So we're very blessed to have a woman of her caliber. She's a very hardworking woman to help and to donate her time. We have a lot of people who have donated their services and materials to us. And when you come to see us, we'll tell you about those people too.
And you know, to me, all of that means that they have a lot of love for what's going on.
Yes.
The love is there because
Yes.
that's what they're doing. They're donating their time. They're donating their resources. They're donating their energy. They're donating.
Yes. Just like yourself.
There you go. Well, I do this all the time anyway, but you know, I am like ecstatic. I can't wait. I am very ecstatic. I'm going to be there, front row center. I have one question. Besides Mr. Cyril Chapman here, tell me who are some of the other musicians that are going to be part of this little event? Well, I guess I should be talking to him, huh?
No, it's, well, you know that our two music directors are Frank Wilkins.
Oh, yes.
And
Oh, dear Frank.
Curtis Rivers.
Yes.
They will be us ahead and forward
love forging
with
ahead.
their musical
absolutely.
expertise and let us know what it is we're doing. There'll be original music, also the standards. Of course, Brother Cyril.
Yes.
He will be playing his horn, but he also may be singing some of his lyrics that he's written for some of the jazz standards, because I know people may have heard in Frank's interview what a prolific lyricist that Cyril is.
Oh, see,
He's
there you
quite
go.
a prolific lyricist, and he's has.
You didn't tell me that.
Well, of course, he's a very humble man.
Humble, quiet.
Yes.
Because see, you never hear from Cyril until he gets on his
Yeah.
horn. That's
Then
it.
we have Rose, who is a wonderful vocalist.
Yes.
We have, I'm sorry,
Oh.
Candida.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Candida Rose.
Rose.
We have Habib Evans.
Yep.
We have, who else? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Frank's wife.
Oh, yes, Dr. Cleopatra Knight
Wilkins.
She will be performing. And we have a lot of other people who will be coming in.
Larry Rowland.
Boston's
own Larry Rowland, who's now making a lot of noise in New York City.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's just taste. We don't want to give everything away. I think we've given a lot away already.
Okay.
But we want to give folks an idea.
We are promoting it on social media.
Very good.
I have a couple of my internet marketing consulting firm called Diverse Elements, which is also how I do independent performances. It has put some videos up.
Okay.
3D avatars that are
Yes.
Promoting this event, and we have flyers, so you know all of the performers are mentioned in that promotion.
And me.
Are those videos on YouTube?
Yes, they are on YouTube.
Okay, very good. The YouTube address?
Usually those come out encrypted, but if you do a search for Jazz on the Hill,
You'll find
they should turn up.
And there's our flyer.
There's the flyer.
So, anybody that's at home, hope you're taking a long peek at the flyer. And we want you to come out and promote and support Jazz on the Hill. Because it's for our community, it's community and our children and our youth. Because we want them to know that jazz is part of us.
Yes.
It's part of our culture. And it's been, as Mr. Cyril said, they take and they say it's theirs, but really it's ours. And we want you all to come out and know that it is ours. I've been, and nobody knows this, and I'm gonna tell everybody, I've been a jazz singer since I was 3 years old.
We might have to get you on the
And
stage.
I've been doing it, and I hide from that. But jazz, I've loved jazz since I was a baby. And I want everybody to come out and support Jazz on the Hill. I'll be there in living color, and we have 30 seconds.
I'd just like to say, we want everyone to support this effort.
That's right.
Not just those who come to this event. but we
Support it
want-
on a long term.
Yes, we're looking for folk to come out and support this event but support this vision that we have.
Yes,
The
sir.
vision and the mission.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And to thank my guests for being with me this afternoon. And I can't wait for Jazz on the Hill. So this is Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host, and thank you for joining us at Artists of Color today and hearing about and knowing about Jazz on the Hill, which again is the 26th of this month.
3 p.m. to 7 p.m.
3 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Sunday.
And we want to pay homage to the Queen of Soul, Aretha.